Once you are exposed to it and use the plant medicine as that tool to access this, that doesn't mean that you continually need to go back to it. Once you've kind of understood what that love is, what actual, like the universal love is, you may only get that through the psychedelic process. But once you experience it, you know viscerally at a human level what that is. And now I can go and tap back into that because I've experienced it. I know it. And it's like feeling something you've never experienced before. And as a human, there's something much greater going on as I'm just going about walking down the street. And it fills you with that little bit of joy to be able to continue to get on.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to another episode of the Sovereign Self Show. Again, I am your host, Lauren Celentani, a somatic success coach, and we here today are talking all things about sacred plant medicine, retreats, and more, all about this transformational world of plant medicine that's really getting reborn into our collective again. We're talking with David Mersky. He's originally a commercial litigator from New York, totally different life now, but now takes distressed micro-cap public companies and restructures them using the public markets to capitalize on new business models. David's currently the CEO of Symbiotic, which is Cannabis reverse, which we still are trying to come to consensus how to actually pronounce it, Incorporated, an OTC publicly traded company where he is focused on the consciousness exploration through the use of psychedelics. The company is launching with its premier member program, Starwalker Cafe, in partnership with William Henry of the History Channel hit show Ancient Aliens, and William has a ton of shows on Gaia TV. I know a lot of my listeners tune into that as well. In addition to the platform's exclusive content and education, the company will be offering plant medicine-based travel experiences, both domestic and internationally. What a bio. I see two different worlds. We'll dive into how those kind of came into fruition. But welcome, David, to the show. I'm so glad to have you on here.
Yeah, thank you, Lauren. I'm really happy to be with you. I'm excited to have this chat.
Yes, me too. So I want to start off, I love, obviously this show's for everybody on their healing journey. More women, I would say, overall, but there's men who listen in here too, but we also can relate to the corporate America job, right? The very driven, perfectionist, overachiever, which sounds, like that was your background possibly. So,
yeah.
Cliff Notes, how did you get from, this commercial litigator to starting to work with psychedelics, and now you are helping share that wisdom with other people on their journey as well?
Yeah. Let me say that it was not planned by any means, totally unintended. I had never done any psychedelics in my life. Even, cannabis at a low level, if you want to throw cannabis into that category. I never really even drank alcohol. So I was pretty much just kind of straight-laced, go to school, law school, practice law, one of these guys. And then, but what I've come to learn is the psychedelic renaissance, as you've referred to, that we're going through, is tapping people from all walks of life in very different ways, from very different backgrounds. So there's anyone and everyone coming into it now. And I think it has to do, and this is just, my thoughts and theories on it, with the change that's going on at our time, with the collective. I was told that when I got into psychedelics and had my first experience with ayahuasca in 2017, that 2017 in particular was like a turn-on time for a segment of the collective for some reason. And so my path here is completely, took me by surprise as much as anybody. But I think that's what is happening now, and people are feeling called. And I can only explain it as a calling that comes from somewhere that is really unexplained. And then, but certainly based on my experiences over the last years, it has been something that has grown into a place where I know that is my life path now, and it is my mission to bring my experience, just my subjective experiences, to people who are willing to listen, because I think that the ways that it has benefited me in my life are universal and can help people similarly. Men and women, people of all different ages are going to be continuing to come to the space this way. And so, yeah, but I did come to the space after a pain experience. And I think that is somewhat common, as a common thread, where people are, coming to looking for something. I wasn't really a seeker at that point either, but I have to say in retrospect that certainly, when things happen to you in life, they can kind of change your perspective and maybe open you to certain possibilities. And then it just comes down to timing. And it's sort of like the divine nature of that. So, for those that are now, it's a growing group, people that are sort of getting turned on. I feel like, I tell people like I'm the electric AC repairman. I come in, people are saying, look, I don't know what's going on with me. I don't have these experiences either, just like me. But there's something within them that says maybe there's something out there that I need to be looking at. And so, if they're open to that, then I just say, hey, everything's fine with you. I know that you're surprised that you feel like you're being turned on for some reason, but it's a great time. And let me just give you some information and see if that's something that would help you on the path that you're seeking to kind of discover more of what's going on, in the world and how it can help you.
Yes, I think the path always finds you. Sometimes I think everybody, the through line through all the guests have been here over the years, your journey, my journey, and I'm sure all the listeners can relate too. It's like something happens to you in life, not planned, not seeking it, whether it's a painful experience, pulling the carpet out from underneath you, that forces you to look at things differently, that forces you to look for help and support and different medicines and tools to
Yes.
help you along the way, you
Yeah.
know?
Yeah, for sure. And the thing about life, one of the main like kind of themes that I've gleaned from the psychedelic journey is that life is a school, and it's a place of the school of hard knocks. And it's cliche but really very true that we come to this body and we have these experiences, and it can be a hard place. It's rough and tumble, but like anything else where there's benefit and growth, it generally starts from a place of pain. It's a place where let me recognize where this is, and let me kind of reevaluate my life. Maybe I got hit by a storm, and in a way it kind of gives you sort of a breath of fresh air, and sometimes in the best way. And it's so hard when you go through trauma, but it can give you the clean slate where, sometimes in life, there's nothing better than having everything wiped away. And in the moment, it's horrible. But in retrospect, after you've maybe grown from that experience, then you look back and you say, that's really what I needed. And that's what, the life is about. And it's about, how do we improve the daily life here? So this is definitely not about anything recreational. Like the psychedelic journey and the experiences themselves are totally not recreational, but they can be, and sometimes they can be very difficult. Sometimes they can be ecstatic and, and wonderful. And you kind of go through the different extremes that you may experience, in life. But, altogether, I think the goal is to integrate them. And that's what I always talk about is the integration, because the experience can be, overwhelming at times. It can leave you with, just unbelievable stories and things that last for your whole life. But the real value comes in, how do I use this? How do I put this into my life? And how do I make myself happier? And that's really the gift of psychedelics. The experience is really just the start.
Thank you for mentioning that because, I see ayahuasca is popular now. I think that people know about it culturally. People going after ceremony after ceremony after ceremony, or any psychedelic, mushrooms, doesn't matter. And I tend to question, is there enough integration going on, right? Everybody's on their own path, but it's not it's a medicine. And from my perspective, it's not used it for escapism. It's not used to as an addiction. It's used as a tool, as a medicine to see a different perspective of what you are, day to day being able to see. So I guess what was starting off, not even on this spiritual kind of path, what was like, how did you start to understand how to integrate using plant medicine and psychedelics, through
Yeah.
your journey?
So I didn't have any preconceived notions, I had been through a long, process that, is a conversation for a whole other time, but like a years long process. And at the end of that, I was sort of kind of trying to find myself again. And the topic came up in a small group, really just a few people in our larger group of friends. And someone brought up, hey, this is ayahuasca. I've been looking into it. I've been researching it. And then I started to look into it and do my research. And it took a period of months. And then we finally agreed to, there were three of us, agreed to, after we were, confident that there was a safe setting that we could try it. And it was, here in the desert in Tucson in Arizona. And so that's it was kind of a jump though. And I'll say this, when people ask me, well, yeah, this is really ayahuasca and different psychedelics are really becoming more popular. Is this something you recommend? And I always say, no, not at all. I don't recommend it to anybody. I felt an absolute calling. And that's what I tell people. If you feel called, then I'm happy to talk to you about it, give you information, make you feel kind of safe in that pursuit if you feel comfortable pursuing that. But I'm not here to talk to anyone who isn't predisposed in the first place to be a seeker or is looking to, help themselves. And so I didn't really know what to expect out of it either, but it was a definitely a very deep-seated anger in me that I had as a result of situations that I had come out of. And without even knowing it, I think that was really the primary driver of getting me into the experience and exposing myself to plant medicine and to Mother Ayahuasca, as one of the psychedelic medicines and tools. And that was the most profound experience that I had ever had. And it was so long lasting. The lessons that I took from that were so great that it wasn't until 4 years later, when we're going back to integration, that I was called to the medicine again. So it's not something that you really jump into. I'm going to schedule this and I'm going to do it in another 3 months or anything like that. I say, let the medicine do the work. You focus on the integration, right? And then when it's time, you will know. And that may be 4 years in my case. And then it was another just a year after that where I had a third experience. And so there isn't any fixed, timeline. And it is a major endeavor. There are different ways to consume psychedelics. Ayahuasca in particular is, you have to prepare. So you're going to know that you're going to go in for this, whether it's a day or a couple of days. Obviously, there are retreats that you can go to internationally where people are there for 2 weeks, where they have multiple ceremonies, like in multiple days. But if you just want to try it, there are very safe and wonderful opportunities here in the States where you could just do it for a day, which is the first time that I did it, was just one night. There is a cumulative effect to ayahuasca, so like 1 or 2 nights can really be helpful. But yeah, I say it will call you when it's time, when you feel like it's the right time again for you to come partake. So it is a tool, and it's nothing that you're going to be looking to jump into like every other week if people think that there's something addictive about it in any way, because no, it's not. The experience is really intense, and you really get what you need out of it, but it is something that you really have to approach with a lot of respect. There's a diet that you follow with ayahuasca, in the first 2 to 3 weeks, before, and then so it's a whole preparation, and the experience itself is 8 hours long. And it's very physically taxing, very emotionally taxing. And when you come out of the experience, you're kind of spent, so all the preparation that went into preparing your body for it is, it's all part of it. And I think that's also worth mentioning, is that the physical body is such a wonderful thing that we really have to prepare ourselves, respect our body, yes, I'm the first one to say we are soul beings having a physical experience, but this physical experience is what it's all about. It is the crux of our existence. So we have to respect and love ourselves. And part of that self-love is loving your body. Am I being healthy? Am I eating right? Am I exercising? How do I look, by the way? And it's not really vanity. And this maybe goes out to women more in particular. Like there's nothing wrong with, beauty, right? And feeling like looking good, looking your part, looking your best. That's a wonderful thing. That's what we're here for. There's nothing trivial at all about it, because the way you put yourself out to the world in business and in social settings is what it's all about. So kind of respecting that vessel is of primary importance. And but your soul will get, such an uplifting experience and such a peace when you realize that you are everlasting. But at the same time, we need to walk around in our daily life understanding that, yeah, while we are so much more and we're having maybe this brief experience, it's a wonderful gift that we have from God, from the universe, whatever you want to call it, that we're here, that we're alive today, that we can walk out, that, we live in a free country, for those of us obviously lucky to be in the United States. And, just proud to, be alive. And I think just that sense of gratitude, that if we can put a little bit of to that into every day, will go such a long way. And I'm the first one to say, I am not a preacher, right? I am not the master. I have not mastered any of this. I am on this journey with you, with everybody. I am as much of a student of this as anyone is. I really claim nothing. What I say is I have seen what I subjectively believe to be part of the way, whatever that way is. It's a way to happiness. It's a way to peace, right? And I have seen a glimpse of what that is through psychedelics, and I have tried to incorporate that into my life, and I fail at it a lot. And the other thing I've learned is to not get on myself and judge myself about those things that I still do wrong, which is a lot. And just to say, hey, ayahuasca, psychedelics give you tools where over time you develop this toolbox where when you say, hey, I'm doing that thing that I do, whether it's work, whether it's to my friends, whether it's to my spouse, yeah, I do that. That's really not a great thing. So let me step aside, put the ego aside for a second and say, let me recognize that from a neutral standpoint and make a change. So the psychedelics give you the tool to recognize that, yes, you can be better, you can make a change. And so if we incorporate all that and try to continually better ourselves, not get on ourselves about the things that we're not doing right, but continue with the effort. And as long as we wake up and we're trying to be better, and when you realize, yeah, I did that thing, okay, sorry, babe, to your wife, sorry, whatever, and you make amends and you say, let me try to do better. And if you honestly can look yourself in the mirror and say, I have tried to do better today, I've honestly done that, and I can look at myself and say that, then you are on the
mic freaking drop. I mean, that's really it. You said the way is like, myself included, judge ourselves so much, right, for this non-existent perfection. But we're never, like, my belief is that we're continually growing, continually expanding. We're never going to get it done, whatever it is, never. And that's the exciting part. So there is literally no perfection. We're continuously growing, experiencing, and we need the quote unquote contrasts, the unexpected, the, not even mistakes, but we need those things to show us so we can see where our focus is actually at. So we can see the other perspective, which is, it's part of the process.
Yeah. And yeah. So just to feel good about the change, like, and again, because we're never going to get there, it should help people take the pressure off of themselves that, I didn't attain this goal or I didn't get there, because I believe, and I go really deep, into the analysis here, which is this life is a projection. And I don't think in reality we're actually going anywhere. If you could really step out of the experience, we're not going anywhere. So that we don't really have to unpack all of that right now. But the in essence, what it means is it's okay It's all good. And here's really the maybe the most important thing is where you are right now is exactly where you need to be. You are divinely set in the place where you need to be right at this moment. And now it's up to you to say, okay, where do I go from here? Because no matter what the situation is, you can make a decision right now to take a different action and go in a different way and maybe do the thing that you've never done, that you've always wanted to do. And in that, the other lesson, one of the many lessons, is that you follow your heart. You know, people know, like, I've been doing this thing, I do this job, it's a 9 to 5, whatever that is, and I'm not really happy at it. And someone, you know, much wiser than me said, you know, what if I came to you and said, and someone, you know, just walked up to you and said, that thing in life, what if this thing that you would want to do, that you could do right now, that if I told you you did, you were guaranteed not to fail, what would you do? And if you sit back with that and take the fear out of what it is, then why not do that thing? Because we have this belief that we're limited, that we're stuck in this place. And if anything is true, it's that this world can change. We can change our own world, you know, overnight almost. Now, the other part about that is that this change oftentimes is not fast. And I think I said to you when we talked, you know, before, I said, I think I'm a great manifester, but I'm just really slow, right? And so it seems like it's a contrast and in some sense, you know, it is, but that's what gives the people doubt, because I don't want to do that thing because I'm going to fail, or I tried it and then I didn't get the immediate results. But it's about the stick-to-itiveness, I think, and just kind of keeping at that thing and living a little bit of the passion. And I'm not saying, you know, throw it all to the wind and quit your job and now I'm going to live on the street, okay? But it's incorporate sometime, what is that passion, identify it, and do that thing a little bit, and then do it a little bit more, because the other thing is that this life is vibration and frequency. And if you live on a daily basis as much as you can from the heart, you will emanate the frequency that is divinely you. And here's what you need to realize. I think we all have this antenna, right? Like I've done different psychedelics and I've felt like the third eye open. And I believe, right, that the third eye is the antenna that emanates the frequency of you as the individual. And you as the individual are part of this overall collective that is so important, that I want everyone to realize that this entire world would be completely different if you were not in it. And you, as the individual, are so divinely protected and important. And it's so hard to see that when you're going through really hard times and things aren't going your way. But this world would not be here without you, and the overall universe would not exist unless you had the place in it. So you are very important, and you are doing your best to contribute to the collective when you're living from that heart space. And whatever that means, whatever the truth is, whatever the psychedelic experience is, and what the reality is, or that was just a hallucination, we can put all of that aside. Because what I'll tell you that's universally true is that if you live by this method and you live from the heart, you will be happier every day. And so I don't care what the explanations are. Do you want to be happier? This will make you happier. And so when I say that's the part of the way, I didn't make the way, but I have experienced it. And if I can help someone to do that a little bit more, that is my life mission.
Yes, yes, yes. And I want to, so many parts that I want to underline there, but there's a book. What is it? Wake Up and Live. I'm forgetting the author. Turn of last century, around Napoleon Hill, Think and Grow Rich, that kind of generation. She wrote this tiny little book. I'll link it in the show notes for people. The whole premise is there is no such thing as failure, just like you've said. If you live from that vibration, then there is no such thing as, what if there was no such thing as failure? How would you be acting right now? How would you be feeling? What would you be doing? Way more in depth to that, but that is such a great book. Short read. I'm sure it's on Audible too for people who want to dive in, soak up that vibration. And, the heart as this receiver, this literal vortex, like I've been seeing pictures of cadaverous hearts that you actually, when you take a heart out of a person and the actual organ and you kind of unravel it, it's an actual vortex. Like we think it's like one solid organ. And I mean, it just lights me up to think, yeah, we're so much more to life than this. There's a reason why people say live with your heart. It's like our receiving mechanism, the love mechanism. And, I've studied with Dr. Joe Dispenza. Around 2017 was when I started going to his retreats and stuff. That's what he teaches people. Your pineal gland, your third eye, is the antenna, the thought, the intention that sends it out to the universe. And your heart, the feeling of that manifestation or state of being, is what brings it to you.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And so as a tool, once you are exposed to it and use the plant medicine as that tool to access this, that doesn't mean that you continually need to go back to it or multiple times. Once you've kind of understood what that love is, what actual like the universal love is, which I have had, and maybe a lot of people, including myself, may only get that through the psychedelic process. But once you experience it, you know viscerally at a human level what that is. And now I can go and tap back into that because I've experienced it. I know it. And it's like feeling something you've never experienced before as a human. And so now you can integrate that and know that something is there. And as you walk about your daily life, you say, wow, you know what? I know that this is actually there. There's something much greater going on as I'm just going about walking down the street. And it fills you with that little bit of joy to be able to continue to get on. And, the different medicines have different, they work different ways and they work differently with different people. So ayahuasca may not be for everybody, mushrooms and psilocybin, and they're all kinds of, different medicines, ibogaine, and they're all showing really unbelievable positive effects in third stage clinical trials that are going on with depression, with PTSD, overall happiness. As these things start to come online more, and I think psilocybin is going to be taking the next big leap here because it has shown positive results, MDMA as well. But I think one of the things I not fear, but is that that I would wish would accelerate maybe a little faster is I think these medicines are going to be approved for people with depression, PTSD, with diagnosable conditions, but it's going to leave, the majority of people who could really, really benefit from the plant medicine, maybe out, waiting longer because they don't really have a condition. But I think that's also changing, and I think so access will be increasing, and that's why, William and I, through Starwalker and the company with Sabanic, are trying to bring just expand the access to people that are looking for it. And I'm just here to get the message out. And by the way, just to circle back, this is my heart space. Like I said, I don't know if we talked about this, but about 9 to 10 years ago, I made a wish list for myself about the things that I wanted to do. And I did not do those things until now. And I'm now, I'm not a social media person. I am now in front of the camera. I am putting out my message. I am recording content now, and I'm getting on podcasts. I'm now doing the thing that I said I wanted to do for so long, and it did. It took me a long time to actually get out there, go get the camera. I don't know what I'm doing. Put it in front of your face and sit there and talk, right? I don't know what I'm doing, but just do it and talk. And it just started, right? And I'm now like in my heart space. And even sitting here being with you, I am now like, I'm in this moment as we're talking right now, I am living my passion. And like, I could not be happier than having this conversation with you because this is what I'm meant to do. And that's what I want people to tap into. What is that thing that you're meant to do? And go find a way to do it and forget about the impediments and the difficulties, because the excuses and the doubt they'll come from everywhere, and they're very, very strong, right? So the only way to really fight against that is take action. And that's another thing about the psychedelic lesson and about how we live in the world today is action. The earth is a place of action. And with all the things that I talk about that are so esoteric and energy and vibration, and there is, I mean, there's so much to really get into here, but let's not lose focus of that. This is where we're supposed to be. And we're here with all of the limitations and confines of the 3D environment. But there are things we do here now that in the great, spiritual existence, you really can't do. You can't experience the joys and the pain and learn lessons like patience and wisdom that really can only happen with time, that you can learn. And time is the only thing you can experience when you're in the 3D. So yeah, let's make the most of what this is. And again, the most important thing is take action. Go do something to take a step closer to that which you love.
Amen. And that, reminded me, Bashar, who's a channeled entity by Daryl Anka, he talks about the formula, which is exactly what you said. Follow your highest excitement to the best of your ability, letting go of the outcome or things, needing to happen a certain way. Not only everything will get done, but you'll start to feel happier, start to live more and more out of the heart space, and you'll start to get the clarity and the synchronicities and the puzzle pieces coming together to grow that purpose. I'm sure 2017, your first ayahuasca experience, I don't know if you had the clarity what you wanted to do where you are right now, but through that, all those pieces, sometimes big steps, sometimes baby steps, led you to that clarity.
Yeah, there's no doubt. And so Bashar, is a wonderful resource. Obviously, he's got this gift, and, people bring all kinds of questions and skepticism and all of that. I say it's not important. What he says, I'm not saying, again, anything new. This does not come from me. I was exposed to this universal source of what life is. It's just, it is just that universal love and life source. And I think the psychedelic experience will give anybody who is a seeker, who doesn't have any particular gift, like myself, like most of us, like we're not a channeler, we're not Bashar, we maybe don't have psychic gifts, but that doesn't mean that we're all not divinely gifted with those things. It's just we're more confined to the realities of the 3D. So my goal is to just help expand that consciousness a little bit and not ask too much of yourself. But if you are curious, you can take a step into this, maybe consider an experience, and then you will be then turned on and keyed into, oh, maybe this is actually there. Now I have felt it for myself, and I can then take that little step to integrate that into my life and become more like that. So it's not too big of a bite, right? It's so easy to say, live your heart space and live that. Even when it comes from someone like Bashar. But when you actually feel it, when you have this experience and I just know this right now. I have seen it. And maybe I don't understand any of it, but I have this little glimpse in me that I have now learned something that, while I can't define it, is a little tool now that I can use to advance myself. And that's what it is all about. And again, it's not where you're going with that advancement. It's, can I live moment to moment now, knowing there's something greater? And then during this process, no matter what happens, I will be happier, right? So someone could have a lot of financial wealth and be completely miserable, right? Or you could try to attain this goal, and people do this with finances a lot, and you finally climb the mountain and you slay the dragons and you do all that, and you get there and you find that, wow, there's really nothing here at the other end that is really so worthwhile, that I spent my entire life missing the happiness that I could have had the entire time. And, it's like that story that someone tells about the fisherman, and they meets the CEO, and the guy says, well, what are you doing? The fisherman says, well, I'm just fishing, and I'm just taking, the fish that I need for the day so I can go back, my family can eat, and I can spend time with my family. And the guy says, well, you could buy so much more fish, and we can do this, and you can get more boats, and then you can grow this business. And then it's all those things start to complicate your life. All the while you get to the end and you've achieved it and you have this massive company. And what do? Well, I'm going to sell it. What are you going to do now? Well, I'm going to go spend more time with my family. Oh, so that's the thing you could have done this entire time, right? So I'm not putting that goal aside or anything. I'm just focusing on whatever that path is for you. You need to figure out what your happy space is day to day while you're on the path, right? Because again, you're not going anywhere, right? This is the illusion. but let's have let's have fun as much as we can while we're in this dream, right? Like Bashar says, like you haven't left, right? The spirit world, the spirit realm. You just are dreaming that you have. Again, whether it's true or it's not, right? Would you prefer to be happier now today or not? I mean, if that's your choice, then of course the answer is simple. Of course you would rather be happier. So let's focus on what that is and what that means to you. And here's the other thing. Do not look at anybody else. You are running your own race. And you cannot compare yourself because comparison is the thief of joy, right? Another cliche, 100% true, right? You can be happy with whatever that makes you happy. And who cares what the other person's doing or your friends? You are your own master, and your frequency is the only thing that matters, and be guided by that. So what psychedelics can do is tap you into your own frequency and give you the confidence that what is right for you is only divinely right for you. And that's all that matters.
Yes. And I think, when you're on a healing journey, you want to give back, you're starting to take those steps on your purpose. It's easy to look at other people who have similar passions or businesses and to compare yourself or to copy what they're doing. And you're frustrated because you're like, oh, I don't see the success. But it's literally this huge game of life. And it's everything just like that example is teaching us to come back to our hearts. What's true for us? What lights up for us? And the contrast of, not getting what you want is going to help clarify how to actually be more authentically acting upon those desires and being your authentic self. And I think it's, with social media, the highlight reels, all that kind of stuff, people I work with are, who am I to share my story? But it takes practice. And, I started this podcast 2018 and then in March. It'll be the 7th year, 8th year. Yeah. And my first episode, audio only, took me 2 hours to record, just me, because I was so nervous, didn't know what I was doing. Every other word, I was like, I kind of mess up. It took me a while to get used to being on the mic, get used to the camera, having people on the show. So giving yourself patience, right? You said don't compare yourself to other people along the journey. Your journey is different. What you're learning through living that purpose is a whole new spiritual journey, a deepening of that journey.
Totally. And I had that self-doubt too. And I still have that. I'm about to put out content and I say to myself, well, who's going to listen to it? Why is this content worthy? And, my answer is it's worthy because I have a passion to do it. And I'm not trying to preach. So yeah, when it resonates with people, that's fine. Those that it doesn't resonate with, it's not meant for them. And that's okay. So it's worthy because it's me. And it comes back to what I said earlier. I am worthy because I am here. You are worthy. All of your listeners are worthy, or you wouldn't exist here. So that self-worth is something that is the most important. What you have to say is important. If it's genuine, coming from your heart space. As a practical matter, while you're living your own experience, when we come back to action, it is okay to look to people that you admire, though, people that are doing something in your space that you say, wow, that person's really doing it right. And it's not to compare yourself to them, but if you take a step back, and also this doesn't come from me, but say, well, what does that person do? And if I emulate that person, not to be them, but to be me, because I want to do that in my life, and I take the steps and the action again that those people are taking, and I take the action to be like that person. Now I'm being me doing those things, and then you will see those changes. So it does come back to action, but it begins with, I am absolutely good enough, and I am going to contribute to this world, and I'm going to do it in my own way. And whoever listens to the message, listen to it. I don't care really about the doubters. Now, obviously that comes with wisdom. I'm older now, but it also from the psychedelic journey is I don't care anymore. I don't care about the judgment. I'm not really judging myself like I used to in a lot of ways. And I'm certainly not going to let you or anybody else judge me, right? And let you get into my kitchen because I've already closed that off. I'm already committed to bettering myself. So I'm putting it out there. And I've done some content on this. I don't think people regret the things they've done, especially when it comes from their heart space. The regret comes in failing to take action and letting the doubt, come in and then just not doing it and then getting up and going back to the job and never really living in that happy space. And the message is it's there for you at any moment you want to make that change. Don't let anyone tell you otherwise.
Yes, I think that's really the message today. That seems to be the theme is like, yes, living from your heart space, but the integration, the taking the action aspect of that. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to retreat, some type of psychedelic experience, and then I come back to life, and I go back to my normal ways, right? The
Yeah.
normal
Yeah.
behaviors, actions, emotions, and then you're like, this is why things aren't changing. This is why I feel like crap. It's because I'm approaching my life from this old energy. That's no longer in alignment, because if it was, I'd be feeling a lot better. I'd
Yeah.
be feeling that happiness. I'd be feeling heart-led and all these
Yes.
beautiful things. Not to say that's
Yes.
my state all day, every day, because we still feel emotions, but it is very important to that the integration, whether it is psychedelics or any plant medicine. I know we talked a lot about psychedelics, but I wanted to kind of circle back to cannabis because, I think that's just as powerful in its own right as any other psychedelic can be, but most of the people don't have psychedelic experience with cannabis. It's been an integral part of my spiritual journey, not recreationally, but for the experience of growth. I first started working with it to help me relax a little bit. I was getting into deep practices with breath work. Energy was starting to move. I was feeling really anxious during all that. So I started, okay, I'll just do kind of microdose. I'll just start doing this. But what I found was that I was actually being called to help it work with me to awaken these gifts. For me, my experience with it overall has really been a deeper perception of the energy that was already there in my body, whether it was fear and anxiety, whether it was Kundalini awakening, spiritual, orgasmic, whatever, but anything in between, it was there to help me kind of focus and tune into what's coming up. And I think, I want to give it credit where credit's due, and I'd love to hear your perspective. Your company's name is Cannabis, spelled
Yeah.
backwards, on how
Yeah.
that can fit into people's healing journeys as well.
Yeah. So I really didn't start consuming cannabis until I was about 35. And so it's almost, 20 years. And I, inched into it, was a very like occasional smoker and, began to, enjoy the effects, enjoy the kind of introspection that I think cannabis can give to a person. And that sort of has evolved. And there was a time where I think I consumed too much, and like any like plant medicine or any tool that you could use can be overused, could be abused, or even something like coffee, right? Like there's any substance that we just look to too much or lean on too much. It's not the only answer, right? Again, these are tools, but you want to make sure you're using them in the most respectful and productive way for you. And I think now I have sort of mediated my use of cannabis. I used to, vape when that started to get really big, and I've totally cut that out. So I'm probably 90% of my consumption is down, which I think has resulted in a lot more respect for the medicine. And I use it in a way that's really so much more productive now. And so I am a regular user, whether it's edibles or just smoking. And it now in my creative process, as I've kind of turned on my heart space and my mission, and I'm living that, when I consume it, I get very, very creative now. It turns something on in me where I start to get downloads of content, like thoughts that I probably had in the past. Now I'm putting down into writing, so that as reminders to myself so that I can make my own content and kind of just as a pass through. And so I think it is kind of, the cannabis is like used me like a channel where I can take these lessons and say, wow, this is something that I have learned and I think people would really benefit from and hear. And it just brings out this feeling of just love in me. Also, that just joy kind of to be alive. And so it's helping me in that way personally and professionally, right? So if used in the right way, and obviously cannabis is something you can do on a more regular basis where you're not committing to some ayahuasca journey or, it can be done, and obviously it's proliferating around the country and it's mostly recreational everywhere. So it's kind of easy to get. And I think that does, the access, I think, brings a lot of positivity. But yes, you have to make sure you're using it responsibly. And I've kind of figured my way out through that process to put it in a place that really works the best for me. And that's going to be different with everybody else, whether it's once in a while. I don't use it every day, but when I use it now, it's an experience that I think comes from a place of honor and respect. And that's something that has come out of sort of the greater psychedelic experience, which is use these tools, learn how to use them in a responsible way, and so that you can be productive and give them that respect, because I believe wholeheartedly they were put here for us to use in a proper way. And none of these substances could you walk around 24 hours a day on mushrooms or dimethyltryptamine or peyote or, ayahuasca. And so, I mean, obviously we're not here to function like that on an everyday basis. So but cannabis, obviously being so widely available, is such a positive medicine that people, that are, questioning, I think, can use, because the risk sort of associated with cannabis is so much lower than I'm just going to go have a psychedelic journey. So it's a good place to start. I think that's where I started, someone having no experience. In terms of the greater picture, just be careful, with how you use it. And I think that's the lesson. There's no tried and true fast. It's individual.
Completely agree. And for me, I was already on this, speaking of preparing your body for the medicine, when I started using it spiritually, recreationally, I'd used many years before, but I was healing my body from precancerous cells. So I was very rigorous about the clean food. I was on a medical medium cleanse, lots of celery juice, plants, vegetables, no grains, meats, dairies, anything like that, to really purify my cells as I'm doing breath work, as I'm connecting more with source, which for me, that's where the healing comes from. It's like when we are disconnected, those cells, right, are erratic. They're intrapede versus the centropede, the sacred geometry of it all.
Yeah.
So I was still approaching it from the spiritual level, 3D sense. But when I started using cannabis to help me with the breath work and get deeper into these spiritual states, my tube was very clean and open. So I suggest anybody listening, consult, do your research, but start very, very small, especially if you are a spiritually more open person, smaller than you think. Because for me, that was like such an opening experience. I was already cracked open on so many levels that it was like, woo, took me a few moments to kind of find the balance. And now not as sensitive anymore, but it, I think it's a beautiful opportunity, the plant medicines to use in tandem with your own spiritual practices to help you go deeper. Because then when you're not using them, like you said, you have that memory, you have that experience that you can tap into. And I'm so grateful for plant medicine, for cannabis, because it helped me really learn to remember a lot of who I am spiritually and those gifts. And now I don't need it to tap into that's just my everyday life. But because you close off your focus from the day to day of what's actually going on inside of you. And it really helped me learn to focus and feel what was already there. It's not something that wasn't already there, is my point.
Exactly, exactly. When you feel it and it helps you to feel it, now you know I don't have to consume it because I know that feeling. And Bashar talks about that too when he says once you identify what that is, that frequency, you don't necessarily need that tool anymore because it's given you that lesson. Now, I'm not, saying that you can put yourself into a impromptu psychedelic, journey. Okay, so I still think you need the medicines, but with cannabis in particular, yeah, I have taken those lessons. And now when I'm out just walking my dog and, just I'm out in nature, which is what cannabis really has been an integral part in my life, I don't need to be under the influence. I can now take that walk with my dog, have a coffee and say, wow, this is just wonderful, right? And that I owe in large part to the medicine, to cannabis in particular. And that is the way that you can use it in a respectful way where it can then, amplify your life when you're just going about your day to day. And actually, and this is really important, you can appreciate, hey, I'm not under the influence of anything. I've learned sort of the way to be happy. And now I don't need that as much. Yeah, I'll go back to it when I need kind of to get back into that space because it's yin and yang. Like everything is, is a flow. And so you're going to go back to, need this. But if you can now say, I can take this walk where I used to have to be high. Now I don't have to be high anymore. I can just feel the joy that I've learned from it. And just, I actually now, it has given me the gift of enjoying like sobriety way more than it used to. I don't need that to be happy. And in fact, like if I'm not under the influence, I'm not high, I'm happier now because I've been given that gift. And I think that's the best way to use, cannabis and really how to do the integration.
Well, thank you so much. I feel like that's a beautiful way to start to close the show up. This episode's a little bit longer, and thank you for staying with us, David. But I just felt like we kept going. We had this beautiful momentum. Was there anything else you want to share that's on your heart to kind of wrap up what we talked about today?
No, just go out there and my message is go do it. Whatever that thing means to you, please don't just put the doubt aside and take a step and don't try to bite off more than you can, take the too big in one fell swoop. Take one little step, take another step. People say like going to the gym, if you just, you don't even have to do much. Go for 5 minutes. Don't even really work out. Go the second day. And if you just keep going, you just do a little bit, it's that daily regimen that you sort of build in that will start to forge the path for whatever it is that you want to do. And don't waste any more time. There's no time like today. There will never be a right time or an ideal time because all the things and all the good and the bad and all this mishmash it's all going to happen. It is never going to go away. It's always going to be there. And if you look for a reason to put something off, you'll find it because it'll be first and foremost. It'll just jump right at you. That's what doubt and the ego does. So please take a step, do something, get that little bit of happiness and let that be the, impetus for you to go tomorrow.
Yes. And it's like those baby steps will build the momentum. It's not about going 0 to 100. So yes, thank you so much, David, for coming on.
It's been a real pleasure. Yeah, thank you for having me. I love the opportunity. It was a pleasure to be with you. I really enjoyed the conversation.
Yeah, thank you guys. And thank you everybody for listening. If you haven't already, hit subscribe, whether you're watching on YouTube or any of the streaming podcast platforms. If you could, write a review because that's what really, really helps us. Share this message, send out that pineal third eye antenna out into the world. So the people who are ready with those open, beautiful hearts to receive can receive this message. And again, remember your body and your emotions are not in the way. They are leading your way to success, happiness, the spiritual path, everything and beyond. Until next time.